So I'll begin with the open meeting law. I apologize. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. So we're going to do the roll call again.
Chairman Dennis Pacelli.
Present.
Vice Chairwoman Debbie Pacheco.
Present.
Commissioner Lisa Silva.
Present.
Commissioner Danny Robillard.
Present.
Commissioner Ann O'Neill Souza.
Present.
Okay. Is there any public input? I'll just ask again, is there any public input? Okay. Next item is the approval of the minutes for the meeting of January 13th.
Motion to approve the minutes of January 13th, 2021 of the Fall River Disability Commission.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Chairman Dennis Pacelli.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Debbie Pacheco.
Yes.
Commissioner Lisa Silva.
Yes.
Commissioner Danny Robillard.
Yes.
Commissioner Ann O'Neill Souza.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all for your patience, and I apologize once again.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have one housekeeping question. When we restarted the recording, did the open meeting law get read?
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep, I reread the open meeting law statement. I did everything as if it never happened.
Thank you. I yield.
We can do that. I'm very pleased to turn the meeting over to our guest presenters today, the Share Foundation. I'm going to ask them to describe the Share Foundation because I always get mixed up on exactly what the acronym. So I apologize for that. But they've made quite a contribution to our community, and we continue to miss and mourn the passing of Les Corey, who founded this organization. But Mr. Philip Weil, I believe, was his assistant, and he is now the executive director of the Share Foundation, and he is joined by Valerie Thorne. So I'll turn the meeting over to Phil and Valerie.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for a correction in this month's minutes, it's actually Beverly Thorne with a B, as in Boston. But I'm sure she would have told you that as well. My name is Phil Weil, and I am the current executive director for the Share Foundation. And what I thought we would do today is I'm going to talk some about how the Share Foundation came to be and some of our early clients that we worked with and sort of what we did. And then I've asked Beverly to kind of give you an update on some of the more recent clients that we have been working with. So SHARE is actually an acronym. It's short for Society for Human Advancement, and you put the word through in there, Rehabilitation Engineering. And that acronym was worked on quite a bit, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit foundation that was officially formed in 1982. So we're coming up on nearly 40 years. And in that time, we have worked with about 4,000 different people. In the summer of, I know we said we were formed in 1982, but the work actually began in the summer of 1981. Les Corey and I became acquainted with a young woman by the name of Linda Texera, who has been featured in several newspapers and in our own newsletter and so forth. And she didn't live in Fall River, but she was close by in Little Tiverton, and Little Compton, rather. And she had severe cerebral palsy. She was confined to a wheelchair. She could not speak. She really couldn't gesture. The way she communicated with family members was through what we have called an I-board that you may be familiar with. Linda's version is a little bit different from most. It was a piece of plexiglass, and it had the letters of the alphabet and the numbers painted on it. And a able-bodied person would hold the plexiglass between Linda and themselves, and Linda would gaze at a letter. And that person holding the board would move that board until Linda and that person were looking into each other's eyes, and the person would speak the letter. Then Linda would go on and look at the next letter. And in that way, she could spell out words, and although that sounds cumbersome, that board is and was amazingly fast. The difficulty was that someone had to be there with Linda in order for her to communicate anything. We had the idea that some sort of a computer system, and remember we're talking about 1981, but some sort of a microcomputer system could maybe help Linda to communicate independently. It was determined that Linda could pretty reliably control the motion of her head. And a switch was placed behind her head, actually initially beside her head and then behind her head. And one of the common questions is, well, how could you communicate with one switch? Well, one way, for example, is Morse code. Now, with a microcomputer, we multiplied the speed of that a little bit. We created some software, and we had a scanning mechanism where there'd be a grid, sort of like Linda's I-board, and each column would light up. And once Linda hit the switch when a particular column was lit up, each item within that column, well, each letter within that column would light up, and Linda could press the switch again and select the letter. And initially, that allowed her to communicate independently. She could build up a message. And in the summer of 1981 came the first text-to-speech synthesizer. Now, when Alexa talks to us today or our phones talk to us, we don't think anything of it. But in 1981, that was unheard of. And in 1981, their Votrack speech systems came out with a speech synthesizer, and you could feed it text, and it would speak it. So Linda, at that point, could speak. And we also made a few improvements of once Linda selected a letter, there was a particular mode where she would get common words beginning with that letter, and then she could select a whole word with 4 presses of the switch, 2 to select the first letter, and then 2 to select the actual word. And at that point, she could speak. She could print on a line printer. She wanted to do other things like dial a telephone, and we gave her that capability. So that was over the summer of 1981, and we thought we were done. There was some publicity as a result of that in the Standard Times and a couple of other newspapers, and then the telephone started to ring. And our initial reaction was, hey, we just duplicate the software. We spent all the time developing it. Not a problem. But the second person had different needs and different abilities from the first. And we had to build a completely new system. And person number 3 and person number 4 and so on all had different needs and abilities. So we got to the point then, and something we still do, is we look at a person and we say, what are your needs? What is it you want to do? Do you want to control lights? Do you want to operate your TV? Do you want to speak? Do you want to write letters? Do you want to dial a telephone? And those, I'm an electrical engineer in a system kind of a way, those are the outputs of the system. The other thing we still look at are what capabilities does a person have? What can that person do? Can they reliably move their head in the case of Linda? Can they move a finger? Can they move an eyebrow? Can they read? Are they able to read text on a screen? Some people can't. Are they able to wiggle their big toe? Are they able to make a reliable noise repeatedly? Can they speak? Those are all the abilities, and we look at those abilities, and those become the inputs to a system. Our philosophy has always been, if it exists, we will try to connect you with a product that exists. If it doesn't exist, we will build it for you. There was a person by the name of Skeeta who lived in Kansas. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he was very well-to-do. He had literally scoured the country and been told what you want doesn't exist. And he came to us and he said, yep, you're right, what you want doesn't exist, but we can build it. And he waited about a year for it, but it was built over that course of time. When different people come to you and you're just two individuals and need a computer, you need to go to somebody and beg for money. And Les and I spent time going to Rotary clubs and Elks and so forth in the area and said, hey, here's a person in your area. We would like a couple of $1,000s to buy a computer for this person. And that was about the going price of a computer at that time. You can only do that so many times as Phil Weil and Les Corey. So Les and I thought about what we wanted to do and form an umbrella, form a foundation, something like that. And eventually we asked a colleague and friend Richard Walder to get involved with us, and we formed the Share Foundation. At the time I was the baby of the group. I was only 23 years old. I'm now 61 years old, and it's been a heck of a 40-year span. But as I said, today we've worked with about 4,000 different people. Primarily those are people with moderate to severe physical disabilities. Shortly after I worked with Linda, I talked to somebody from Raytheon and that person had some experience with people with disabilities and told me the likelihood of another person like Linda being as physically disabled as she was and yet mentally as alert as she was. Now, Linda is no doubt normal, probably above normal intelligence. The likelihood of a person like that is maybe 1 in 10 million. And at the time I didn't know any different, but I know today that is definitely not the case. 4,000 people over nearly 40 years, on one hand, doesn't sound like a lot of people. I mean, I think it is, but one of the problems we face is when we meet a person and provide them with something, it's the beginning of a relationship and not the end. Linda has been through, I think, 5 or 6 different systems over the last 40 years. And that's not because any of the systems have failed. It's because Linda's needs have changed and technology has changed. In 1981, I don't think the word Internet existed. There was no such thing as a web browser, and any kind of a device that could display graphics probably cost a minimum of $15,000 or $20,000. And the idea of watching a video on your computer was unheard of. Something like Netflix, I don't even know if it was dreamed of. But those are all very common things today that people, both able-bodied people and people with disabilities, want to do. And our organization helps people do those sorts of things. And I don't know, probably we should Beverly talk a bit and then I guess open the floor to questions, if that makes sense, Dennis. Dennis is muted if you're talking.
Yep, no, that makes a lot of sense. I muted myself, guys, to try to cut out as much of the static as possible. Okay. But I'm following everything you're saying, so that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Beverly, why don't you talk about some of our more recent clients and then maybe open up the floor to questions.
What kind of a time frame do we have, Dennis?
I know I'd say, I'd say around, we usually do about 30 minutes or so.
30
roughly.
minutes more?
So 30 minutes total, you mean?
Yeah, total.
Okay. So we should probably be kind of quick, Beverly. Maybe, can you do 5 minutes, Bev?
That'd be fine. So the first person I'd like to talk to you about is, I'm going to use an artificial name. His name is going to be called Sergio. And because of a grant that the Commission for Disabilities from Fall River provided to us, we were able to provide services to him. He's a gentleman that had been living in the community. He had an episode where he became disabled, and he's now at this point residing in a facility, which of course is limited because of the COVID-19 restrictions. But what we did was we provided...
Can I interrupt you just a minute? If you need to take 15 or 20 more minutes, I don't think that's going to be a problem. So I don't want you to feel like you need to come and you need to rush, because I know that coming to speak to a group of any kind takes some preparation. So I really don't want you to feel, that you need to cram everything in a 5-10 minute period.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I might, could I make a motion to waive the rules to give them as much time as they need to make a coherent presentation?
Yeah, you can make that motion. Do I hear a second? Everybody unmute yourselves for a minute. Do I hear a second?
I can second that.
Okay.
It's Debbie Pacheco.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote. So please do *6. That's to unmute
Chairman
yourself.
Dennis Pacelli?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Debbie Pacheco?
Yes.
Commissioner Lisa Silva?
Yes.
Commissioner Danny Robillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Ann O'Neill Souza?
Yes.
You can go ahead. I apologize, but I just didn't want you to feel rushed. So go right ahead.
I appreciate that, Dennis, so much. So I'm going to just start again. So the gentleman I'm going to talk to you about is named Sergio, and that's an artificial name. That's not his actual name. But we were kind enough to receive a grant from the Fall River Disabilities Commission a few years ago, and we were able to work with Sergio. He had been living in the community, and he had an episode where he became very physically disabled. He's a quadriplegic now, and he's residing in a facility with the hopes that he's going to be able to get back out to live with his family. Being a quadriplegic, he's able to move the thumb on one finger, on one hand, and what we did was he was looking for something to do. He's living essentially in a room with 4 walls. People are going by in the hallway, but he's also mute, so he's not able to talk. So if you can imagine living in a room, you can move a finger, you can't call out to people walking by. What we did was we provided him with a laptop, which he's able to control by way of his one little finger. It has special software on it that scans, so that what happens is it highlights a row at a time. He wiggles his finger when he wants to enter that row, and it's highlighted. And at that point, it goes from highlighting a row to individual cells in each row. So the first row might have A, B, C, D. And by using his thumb and the software, he's actually able to create speech so he can communicate with people. He's able to do email and communicate with people that way. He can create documents. Now, the special software that the Fall River Commission grant provided to us allowed us to purchase this special software. The software, as well as scanning, can help him with mouse control on the computer. So I think Phil Weil earlier mentioned that Netflix is something that wasn't thought of back in 1981 when we first began, but that was one of his goals, was to be able to control his computer to be able to watch movies. The staff where he is are very busy. They pop in and they do what they need to do, and they socialize a little bit, but then they have to leave. So he spends a lot of time alone in his room. And one of his goals was to be able to control the Netflix movies himself, and he wanted to be able to do email. So we set him up in order to do both. We provided extensive training because a scanning software program is a very slow-moving process. It's not something we create a sentence. We don't think about the words. We don't think about the spelling of the letters, the spacing. But when you have a scanning software, you need to do all of that one step at a time. So if you wanted to type out hello, you'd have to take the H, the E, the L, the O, the exclamation point, and the space. So it's a slow process. But we were able to improve his quality of life by letting him be able to reach out to people. When the COVID hit, unfortunately, that slammed a stop in all of the training. Hopefully he had enough to be able to keep moving forward on reaching some of the goals that he had wanted to reach. I keep watching the government regulations and rules about whether or not you can go visit and things like that. Hoping that he's well. But I'm hoping to get back to him as soon as the COVID situation and the vaccinations move us so that we can be more social again. Another client that I want to reach out to is another person called Sylvia, and she also is a quadriplegic, but she is a quadriplegic due to muscular dystrophy, and she spends all of her time in bed, similar to the other gentleman I just spoke about. She again has just movement in one finger. However, she is able to communicate. She can speak. But her goal, again, she spends her time in bed in one room. Her family comes in and out. She at least is in the community, which is good. And we provide her with computer access, again, by way of a scanning software. And we actually use her software to do, she likes to read books. That's her goal, and she likes to read books. She also wanted to be able to use Alexa. So now some of you know about Amazon Alexa, where you can speak to your room, and there's a little contraption on the table near you, and you say, Alexa, and she says, how can I help you? And then you can control lights and TVs and fans and things like that. And so that was her goal, and we just recently upgraded her computer. Now, periodically, she gets sent to the hospital for long periods of time due to her deteriorating physical condition. And so she takes her computer with her, and it helps for continuity. Her friends don't see that she's just disappeared off the face of the earth. She can reach out to them when she's in the hospital and let them know that she's safe. They can send their regards and keep her updated on what's happening with her group of friends. She's young as well. And so that's an example of the computer access and Alexa that we've done. Currently, we have another grant because so many of the disability population live alone with this COVID situation the way it is. You can be within 6 feet, but if you don't have a driver who can get you to be within 6 feet of somebody to visit, it's very isolating. We presently have a grant that's helping us to provide computers so that people can Zoom. Zoom is the current in-word for video chatting. Now, video chatting's been around for a long time. Some of you may have heard of the word Skype, or Google Meet, or FaceTime, or Facebook Messenger, or Google Go. Those are all examples of video chatting. And it's very rewarding to talk to somebody on the phone, but it's 10,000 times more rewarding to see their face. You almost feel as if you're in the room with them and you're having a face-to-face visit. You can't reach out and touch them, but it's pretty close to the same thing. It's very rewarding. We have a grant that is helping us to provide people with moderate to severe physical disabilities with cameras so that they can reach out and they can Zoom or video chat with others. Let's see. I've also worked with another gentleman, Wally, and he has another physical disability where he's a quadriplegic as well, and he was looking for computer access. And his computers, we updated his computer. He had, I think it was a Windows 7 computer, and it just was outdated, and it wasn't handling the websites that he likes to go to very well. He likes to go to a lot of TED Talks, which uses a lot of your RAM component of your computer, and so we updated his computer. He also is using a scanning system. It's a little different. When I talked about the first gentleman, it was scanning on an alphabet board, but Wally uses the scanning mouse. He has his computer set up so his favorite websites have desktop icons. So what he does is he simply clicks on the desktop icon, and it brings him directly to the website that he wants to watch. He also likes to listen to music, and so a lot of them go directly to various musical performances on YouTube that he enjoys. We work modifying technology that's not there. A lot of times things, if you're able-bodied, the stores will sell you a TV remote that you can very easily use. A scanning TV remote, if you purchase one, often is $400, which is cost prohibitive. So what we do is we'll take a traditional TV remote that has a favorites button on it, and we'll have one of the electricians tack into it, put a switch on it. So now the person, by just pushing a simple little button, can scan through their favorite channels. So if they want to watch the Super Bowl on one channel, they can, and then when there's an ad, although most people don't turn away from the ads on the Super Bowl, but for example, if they wanted to change the channel when an ad came on, he can independently do that while his wife is in the kitchen cooking. So we do TV access as well. Recently, we've been reaching out to the Council on Aging's for people that needed low technology, but not the type of thing that we ourselves can obtain. So for a person with ALS, I recently helped them obtain a commode, which raises the toilet seat so that she has difficulty transferring up, coming up off of a seat. So the commode raises it so it's less work for her leg muscles. And we also reached out to them to obtain a manual wheelchair for another person who had a stroke. So those are just a couple of the examples of what we do. We worked with a gentleman in Rhode Island recently who needed an update. He needed the voice recognition software. He's a quadriplegic. And what we did was we updated his computer to Windows 10. It's a desktop computer, and we gave him the Dragon. So now he's up and running and moving along on that. Sometimes disability is something that you're born with, and sometimes it happens through the course of a normal life. I'm working with a newer person to us. I'm getting to know her and her mother, and she had a heart attack. And when she had the heart attack, she experienced a lack of oxygen going to the brain. So now she's an acquired brain injury. She is learning to refocus her vision, and she's doing some basic switch training. So what that means is she's learning to move her arm into a certain position to trigger a switch to change the TV station again. And while she's doing the switch training, we have her set up with a bell system, which is a call system. She's nonverbal. And so now what we're trying to do is get her to ring the bell so that the people in the room know that she needs something from them, and they will address her concerns, bring their attention to her needs. Again, she's quadriplegic, so she can't move a great deal. We also work with people in facilities as well as the community. I've been working with a gentleman for, I think I started with this person in 2003. and we followed him through many, many different nursing homes. And he has a scanning TV controller, again, for full control. He's a quadriplegic. And he recently obtained a new television, so he needed to have the controller reprogrammed. The nursing home was under restrictions. There were no visitors allowed. So what I did was I did some training with the maintenance gentleman and got him up to speed to what needed to be done, and he went into the room and did it for us. I did a quick follow-up call, and he's up and running on the TV controller. His next goal for me is to Zoom with me and teach him how to use voice recognition software by way of Zoom. So that's going to be a challenge that we're looking forward to. And we need help from the staff within the facility to help us facilitate the setup and the startup of the Zoom. And I should be starting on that soon. So there are a lot of challenges in this time of COVID between the restrictions and products taking a long time to obtain and things along that. But we're moving forward. Unfortunately, I'd love to say that people weren't becoming disabled now, but it's still occurring. And it's our goal to improve their quality of life. We all need a reason to get up and wake up and move forward in the day, and that's what we do every day. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, go ahead, Ms. Commissioner Robillard.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you, ma'am, for your presentation, and I became very familiar years ago when I was in elementary, middle, and high school. I knew students that were served directly by the Share Foundation. I've known Lester Corey probably since 1983 or 4. I saw at least 5 or 6 students that I know directly that had system built by him and by the Share Foundation, much of the same as you've described. So this organization does terrific work. Lester Corey has built a legacy in the disabled community. He will be sorely missed. He spoke at one of our disability awareness days probably 4 or 5 years ago. He's just an amazing gentleman, and his legacy and his work should be carried on greatly. And I'll let my other colleagues speak, but after that, I'd like to make a motion. Thank you very much. I yield.
Thank you for your comments.
There was a former commissioner when I first joined the commission who has actually gone on to become chair of the Sharon Commission on Disability. Oh. His name is Paul Remy. Do you have any? Yeah. He always he contacts me every year about the time of your walkathon.
The walkathon. Okay, yes.
He has gone on to become chair of the Sharon Commission on Disability.
He reached out to us not long ago.
So I think he's an example of the kind of because he's a really good advocate for Sharon. I think he's an example of the work that you guys do. He's not able to speak, but there were other ways that he's been able to communicate. And as I said, he was a member of the commission when I first joined. He used to help us plan Disability Awareness Day, and now he chairs the Sharon Commission.
Yep.
Are there anybody else? The floor is open for any questions. *6 to unmute.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the Commissioner Robillard, go ahead.
Yeah, hearing no questions, and anyone can stop me at any point. What does a average system like the one you've described for the people that you worked with? What does an average system like that cost?
Well, go ahead.
I guess an average system in terms of hardware could cost anywhere between $1,000 and probably $2,500 if we were to buy it new. We do our best to use recycled computers whenever possible. Oftentimes, people don't need the cutting-edge computers, and in past years, we have had various organizations, including some banks. If they upgrade their computers, they will donate some to us. We've had some from state of Massachusetts, various offices. That worked pretty well with desktop computers, laptop computers, and desktop computers, for that matter. These days, the recyclable ones are getting very scarce as companies find their bottom line not what they hoped it would be. Instead of updating computers every 2 to 3 years, they're now probably doing 3, 4, or 5 years. And by the time they decide that the computers are out of service, they're really not of much service to anyone. So when possible, we use donated computers and refurbished. But if we have to go buy something new, it's probably somewhere between $1,000 and $2,500.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, could we just make sure that the rest of the members can hear what we're saying here? Because I want to make a motion, and
I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll just to make sure, and again, the mute, to unmute yourselves, it's *6. *6 to unmute. So I just want to make sure everybody's, because we're going to make a motion and vote on it. So can the clerk just call the roll just to make sure we're all on the same page here?
Chairman Dennis Pacelli.
I'm here.
Vice Chairwoman Debbie Pacheco.
Here.
Commissioner Lisa Silva.
Here.
Commissioner Danny Robillard.
yeah.
Commissioner Ann O'Neill Souza. Commissioner Ann O'Neill Souza.
Yes.
Okay, I heard her voice.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get my phone off mute.
Okay, Commissioner Robillard, you have a motion to make.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In light of the presentation, in light of the work that we know the Share Foundation has done, in light of the past support this commission has extended to the Share Foundation, I'd like to make a motion that we allocate the sum of $15,000 in the memory of Wes Corey.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I know I am not a member of the commission, but I am extremely touched, and I know Les would be touched, and I'm sure his wife and family will be as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just require one stipulation or one criteria that this $15,000 be allocated to residents of Fall River, and of course that they have a disability.
Okay. And we'll just make that part of the motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Chairman Dennis Pacelli.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Debbie Pacheco.
Yes.
Commissioner Lisa Silva.
Yes.
Commissioner Danny Robillard.
Yes.
Commissioner Ann O'Neill Souza.
Yes.
Okay. The motion's passed. Are there any more questions for our guest presenters?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask that the Share Foundation come back next year to give them another presentation?
Duly noted. I think this is really a treasure in our backyard to have. This is really something that, this is kind of a treasure that we have in our backyard, and I think it'd be nice for the Commission to continue to support that as much as we can.
And we would certainly be honored to do that. And again, you have made, I'm not exactly certain who the recipients are going to be yet, but you have made the quality of life better for a fair number of people in Fall River.
Yep.
And that is a blessing to have you folks on board, not partnering with us.
Thank you. Are there any further comments from anyone? Well, Professor Vile and Ms. Beverly Thornton, first of all, I apologize for messing up your name the first time. but thank you very, very much for your presence today and your presentation at our meeting today.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you for allowing us to discuss and let you know what it is that we do and how we accomplish it.
Thank you. Thank you for making.
I have one question. Is it for Fall River, specifically Fall River, or is it for Fall River and the towns surrounding it?
No, specifically Fall River, ma'am.
Yeah,
specifically
by law.
Fall River. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because by law by law we have to stick within only with the residents of the city of Fall River with disabilities.
That's perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, that's okay. Thank you, and thank you for making lives for people with disabilities in this area, necessary and important and better.
Please do keep me in the loop in regard to the Disability Awareness Day at the Cuss Middle School. I've attended once in the past, and I would like to do so again depending on COVID situations.
Oh, yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, we will, I guess, vacate the meeting and let you folks continue. And stay safe, everyone.
You also. Thank you very much.
Okay. Blessings to all. Thank you.
Our next item is work group updates. I've asked either Tammy or Chris Gallagher to be with us if they have any updates from an ADA standpoint. I don't know if they're here or any of them, but we're on ADA updates. And I don't seem to hear any. I can tell you that at the end of January, we had a meeting. We were going to have a meeting with BZ Benson, who's a specialist on audible pedestrian signals, because our work group on ADA has become very concerned about sidewalks, curb cuts, and audible pedestrian signals, making the city safer for individuals with disabilities. And we had to reschedule that meeting because our Director of Community Maintenance, Mr. John Perry, had an obligation that day. So it's been rescheduled till Wednesday, February 24th. And that will be, we'll obviously keep you posted on all of that. But we also have the Mobility Department at the Mass Commission for the Blind kind of in the background doing technical assistance if that's needed. But so we'll have that presentation at our work group on February 24th. So that's one update I can give. I don't know if anybody else has any comments. Okay, policies. Debbie Pacheco, Vice Chair, I'm sorry.
No updates at this time, Chairman Pacelli.
Thank you. Okay. Finance. Well, we just did a I'm looking at finance here, and I've noticed that what we've been doing in the past, and I wanted to get everybody's thinking on this because this is what I have been thinking lately. But I want to throw it out to the rest of the group. We've been, anytime there's been a proposal, or a guest speaker or whatever, we've been actually motioning and passing proposals under that particular topic. We did it with the Audible Local Ledger, for example, when their presenter was here, and we did it today with the Share Foundation. So just to kind of make the agenda more tighter and neater, and we're not going all over the board, I'd like to eliminate this particular topic, this particular item called finance, and deal with it when a particular group or whatever comes before us with a proposal. So I'd like to know what your thinking is on that.
The only thing I would say, Mr. Chairman, is as long as we could have a monthly update or a bi-monthly update as to exactly what we have in the account.
Mm-hmm. And we do get the regular budget reports. I don't know if you want them read at the commission meetings, or whether just making sure that everybody gets it by email is sufficient enough.
Yeah, that's getting it by email, maybe 4 or 5 or 7 days prior to a meeting. That'd be sufficient for myself. Okay. I won't speak for the others.
Okay. Can I hear some other thoughts? Just press *6 to unmute. I don't know if we need to vote on that or if we just consider that done. So the agenda, just so you know, when we under work groups, for example, it'll just say A, ADA, B, policies, and then C will be outreach. We won't have the finance would only be coming when somebody comes to us with a proposal, and at that point they can make a motion to, allocate a certain fund to a certain whatever, and we can just vote on it that way. Or if you need to table it for more time to research, that's always a possibility.
It would just be. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I would be fine with that, Dennis. That
okay.
As opposed to every month having that on the agenda.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Commissioner Robillard, you had something?
At some point, maybe quarterly, maybe we just state in public state in public what's in the account for the edification of the public. I don't know how people feel about that, but
I think we can do that. We can do that. We can also, I wouldn't put the entire report in the minutes, but maybe we can put the what's left, or the total, for example. That we can make that part of the minutes. How do people feel about that?
I think that makes sense, Dennis.
Yeah. Like I said, not the whole report, but just how much is what the total is can be incorporated into the minutes. Okay. Then we're going to go on to outreach. I want to start with the decision we've made about Disability Awareness Day 2021. I'm going to turn that over to Lisa. *6 to unmute.
Okay, I'm took a little while to unmute myself.
That's okay.
All right. So after much discussion in work group, we decided to cancel Awareness Day for this year. We just couldn't see it happening still with COVID and everything going on and people working from home and getting all these agencies put together. So we are now looking at a date of September 24th, I believe it was, Dennis?
Yes, it is. 2022.
22, and I did reach out to that band that we wanted to get for this year that we were able to secure that is well known in the area. I did reach out to them for the 2022 date, and they have penciled us in, so we already have them on board. I think that's
Any questions?
pretty much it for now. So we'll have a whole lot of time now to plan things, add things, order things, stuff like that.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. Had we allocated money for this year's event? And if we have, I ask that allocation be moved and put toward the event in 2022.
Okay. Let me do this for the rest of the commissioners, because I promised the work group I'd do it, and I didn't, and I apologize. So what I'll do is our allocation goes back to what would have been, what year are we in? It would have been 2020. It would have been 2020. We did allocate as far back as that time. But if you guys don't mind, I'll confirm it, and I promise I'll report back to you next month, next commission meeting. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Something like, I think we allocated something in the vicinity of 6,000, but let me let me go back over the minutes and reproduce the documents for everybody, and I'll do that by the latest the next meeting, if not before. The next item, I think, is just pretty much for discussion today, but it's something that I think would be a good outreach for this commission, and that's the establishment of a scholarship program. I'm going to let Commissioners Danny Robillard and Lisa Silva kind of introduce or explain the proposal, and then I'll have some things to say, and we can discuss it.
Danny, do you want to discuss it since you wrote it up?
Yeah, well, I had the honor of working with Lisa on this, and just basically we'd like to start a scholarship yearly for students with disabilities that attend 3 schools in Fall River: Durfee High School, Diamond Regional Technical Vocational High School, and Bishop Conway. And we would come up with an allocation amount to be divided among those 3 schools with the following criteria: that all of the students from all the schools that are selected are Fall River residents, all of them have a disability, all of them will be attending college in the next year, and that each school would have the ability to select the students that receive the scholarship.
So just for clarification, we will not be the ones making the judgments. We would leave it. We would provide the funding, but the actual determinations would be made by the schools, because they deal with the populations on a day-to-day basis.
And
so example,
one final point that I missed, but is critical, Mr. Chairman, that the funding that we provide would be sent to each college on behalf of each student.
Okay. Any questions?
Chairman
Comments?
Scully?
Go ahead.
The only thing that I will do on my end, since one of the schools that you've identified as Diamond Regional, is I will discuss it with the superintendent and let him know that this is the wishes of the commission, and just determine from him what is the best way to handle that. He is also our interim business manager as well, so I will discuss it with him. I'm actually meeting with him next week, and I can report back on the process for Diamond Regional at our next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and this is really the way it should be handled. It should be handled by the appropriate schools through their administration. We don't want to get in the position of making determinations. And also, there is going to be an allocation, which would be divided amongst the 3 schools. And with that, it would be the school's determination whether just one student would get the scholarship, or whether it would be divided amongst all the students with disabilities that are going to college in the coming year. The only thing is that we would want to know so that we can send it to the colleges in the name of that student to make sure that that's what's happening. We don't want to allocate the money and then have it go somewhere else or whatever. So we want to try to keep the control as much, we want to keep this under our control, but allow the schools to make the determination. So that'll be good, Debbie, if you could do, I'm sorry, Vice Chair, if you can do that.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, I can definitely report back at the March meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, go ahead.
Could I ask the Vice Chair a question, please, through you?
Of course.
Mrs. Pacheco, would your report at the next meeting indicate the number of students from Diamond that would fit this criteria?
So, Commissioner Robelot, I don't know if I'd have that number for you. So you want to know how many students with disability are potentially applying to college?
Well, we would need to know how many from Diamond would be going to college.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Debbie, they have to be I'm sorry. I think they would have to be beyond the application stage. They would have to have already been accepted. Am I right? Is that a?
Yeah.
No, I'm
am
sorry.
I understanding that correct?
Yes. So, for Mr. Robelot's question, I will try to obtain from the guidance department, based on the number of students that have been accepted to college, to see if we have a number of students with disabilities that are actually attending, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year, and that will give us an idea of how many students that could potentially be.
Okay. Did I get that wrong, Commissioner Robelot? I just want to make sure that I understood correctly that that's what you're. When I asked, the person has to be accepted.
I believe that's correct. Could I ask? Could I ask Commissioner Lisa Silva, who worked on this proposal with me, to verify that what you've said is correct? I believe it is.
Hello?
Hello, I'm here. Commissioner
Silva. So I'm unmuted. Oh, this thing's giving me a
you're
hard time.
You're unmuted.
So yeah, everything that you said, Danny, is correct.
Okay.
I did, just to give you an idea, I did reach out to Conley to kind of get an idea of how many students fit that criteria, and they told me there was about 7.
Okay, so next month we'll hear from public schools, and we'll hear from Diamond. When I say the public schools, I mean Durfee. So we'll get that next month. Yep. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate to make the allocation now, just so we've set the allocated amount?
Yeah, you can make a motion for a general allocation, and then we'll need to, once we get numbers, we'll need we can do separate motions for Durfee and Bishop Conley and and Diamond as to how many. But we can do like when you do a budget, so you could say, I move that we set aside, just like we do for Disability Awareness Day, we set aside $6,000. So we'll set aside a certain number, and then we can make the specific allocations later if I'm making sense.
Yep, that's fine with me. And in that regard, I'd like to make a motion that the Fall River Disability Commission allocate the sum and amount of $32,000 for educational scholarships.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments, discussion?
And within that motion, Mr. Chairman, the criteria that I laid out previously would apply.
Yep, resident of Fall River a resident of Fall River with a disability must be going to college next year, or actually we should probably say has to be accepted at a college for next year.
Yes.
Has to have been.
Chairman Pacelli?
I'm just trying to get the grammar correct here. Yes, go ahead.
Do we have somebody reaching out to the Fall River Public Schools? Do you need me to do that as well?
I could email the Assistant Superintendent of Special Ed and ask.
Okay, perfect.
Yep, we have somebody to do that.
Okay.
I can be the Conley representative if you guys want me to. Since I went there for 1 year.
That's true.
Okay. Hearing no further comments, can we do a roll call vote on the motion to set aside, so I hope I can remember this correctly, to set aside $32,000 for a scholarship, educational scholarship for students with disabilities in Diamond, Durfee, Bishop Conley, and they have to be residents of Fall River with disabilities and had to have been accepted at a college, into college. Did I get everything?
I believe you. I believe you did.
Okay.
Yes,
so we'll do. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut anybody off. Go ahead.
I believe you sent out the proposal to all members, Dennis, and maybe when our very capable secretary puts the minutes together, you could send her the exact proposal, and that proposal could be incorporated in the minutes of this meeting. So it's very clear.
Yep, I will do that. I will send her the exact proposal. I'll take care of that.
So that clarifies everything exactly,
yep.
And the motion will be exactly what the proposal states.
Okay, that sounds good. We're gonna do the roll call now.
Chairman Dennis Pacelli?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Debbie Pacheco?
Yes.
Commissioner Lisa Silva?
Yes.
Commissioner Danny Robillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Ann O'Neill Souza?
Yes.
Okay, motion has passed. I just want to remind everybody, and this was under new business. Was this under? Oh, this was under outreach. Okay, any old business? Any new business? I just want to tell everybody that on April 14th, the Massachusetts Office on Disability is hosting, and I think I sent this out yesterday because that's when I got it, a webinar they're hosting, I guess on all kinds of disability civil rights issues, but they're also going to be dealing with outdoor dining. So I will make sure that information gets to our ADA coordinator, and I will also make sure that it gets to the building inspectors, and I believe it's City Councilor Linda Pereira who's been chairing that section, and make sure that they get that. But you all got the email yesterday, and if you need me to resend it, I'll be happy to, because there's a way that you can register. There's no cost to it. It's just you just have to register online, and you will get the invitation and the Zoom information. And that's not until April 14th, so we can do a reminder again next month. And next month our meeting will have Sergeant Kevin Dolan. We will review and renew the disability parking enforcement program for the next year. So if anybody has any feedback to give or any comments or anything like that, we'll be ready for that for next month, which I believe is March 10th.
Is that the only? Is that the only guest for next month, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yeah, that's the only guest. I try to keep it. You know what? I try to keep it to one guest a month, because I don't want people to feel like they have to hurry up and that kind of thing. And so I try to keep it to one guest a month.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Okay. And with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Debbie Pacheco.
Second.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote.
Chairman Dennis Baselli?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Debbie Pacheco?
Yes.
Commissioner Lisa Silva?
Yes.
Commissioner Danny Robillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Ann O'Neill Souza?
Yes.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.